This is our front door. It's got some cracking. The wood is cracked here, and the seam here is also cracking on the paint. But the most serious part is the cracking in the wood. Here, and a lot of it here. My wife wanted me to replace the door, and I thought about doing that. But the problem with this door is that before we moved in, when they redid the stucco, they brought the stucco right up to the door jamb, the edge of the door jamb. They were supposed to leave space here and put in a stucco molding right here, but instead they brought the stucco right up onto the door jamb, which means that if I wanted to replace this door with a pre-hung, I would have to take out this door jamb. But doing that, the likelihood that the stucco would get damaged is probably 100%, and I would end up chipping all that away and then redoing all of this stucco, and I didn't feel like doing that much work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this door off. I'm going to completely strip it with chemical stripper and repair and fill in all of these cracked areas, and then I'll repaint it and then rehang it. I've created this plywood cover to cover up the door opening while I'm working on it. I'm using a half-inch piece of plywood, and I've installed 6-inch long blocks, and the way it's going to work is I'm going to put this on the outside of the door. These blocks will be sticking through the doorway, and then I'm using these strips that I'm going to clamp up against the door jamb. So the door jamb is going to be right here, and I've measured the distance that I would need between the plywood and the strip to secure the piece of plywood securely against the frame of the door, and that'll keep that front doorway closed while I'm working on the door. So now I'm going to take this out to the front door. I'm going to take the front door off the hinges and secure this in place. All right, I have my sheet of plywood propped up against the door, and I'm going to pop the hinge pins and take the door off, and then I will secure the piece of plywood onto the door frame. That's 2. That's 3. Oh, this door's pretty heavy. I'll just prop it there for now, and now I have to secure the sheet. Get those in. I have to take the actual hinge off the door jamb. Interesting. So all of these hinges used only the 4 short screws. I believe the proper way to have done that is to use at least one long screw that goes all the way through to the stud. Okay, now we're ready to secure the plywood. Get it in place. Okay. That's going to hold it just fine. I do have one final piece to go across here. Let's put in this piece here. That takes care of that. All secure. Okay, I've got the door slab up on my sawhorses. I've got a piece of plastic tarp underneath. And I'm just taking off the bottom weather strip panel. I see the bottom of the door is not in such great shape here either. It's a little bit damaged. Whoever put it in never primered the bottom of the door. All right, let's get ready to lay the stripper down. Okay, I have the stripper applied right here and this much of this panel here. The instructions were to just go with small sections at a time. They said up to 3 by 3, but I'm going more like up to 1.5 by 1.5. Well, the Jasco paint stripper did not work as expected. It did some, but I'm just not happy with the results. So in this area, I actually put on 5 coats over the span of a whole hour, and this is all that it managed to peel off. And it looks like there's only a couple of coats of paint on top of a dark gray primer coat on the wood. So I decided I'm just going to scrape lightly whatever the paint stripper softened, and then I'm just going to patch this up with wood filler so that it's smooth, and then I'm going to just sand it and paint. Now this part had some cracking in the wood, so the big cracks, what I did was I cut it open. I actually cut out some of the wood. Then I'm going to use Bondo to fill it in. I'm going to let it set overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to sand it all down flush with the door, and then give it another fine sanding, and then I will attempt to refinish it. This is where the door handle hardware was mounted, and it's sort of indented where the edge of the hardware was pressed into the wood. So I'm going to just do a light coating of the Bondo right in these parts, and parts where the paint chipped off, I'll do Bondo and then paint filler, and hopefully it'll come out looking okay. Whoever installed this door originally did not put primer on the bottom or the top. So the bottom, this is the exterior side of the door, so this looks pretty bad, but I'm just going to scrape it back and put wood filler here, Bondo right here, and then sand it all down. Hopefully it'll come out nice. And then after I'm all done with the Bondo and the wood filler, I'm going to give it a nice sanding job and then put primer all over it, including the edge, bottom and top edges. So that's the status late afternoon on day 1. I am going to fill in this crack here using Bondo wood filler. This is the kind that hardens. So you take a bit of the mix, and then you have to mix this cream hardener to it. And then you don't have much time. I'm going to first mix the Bondo mixture. Then I have literally just about 1 to 2 minutes to set it in here and roughly smooth it out. Once it's fully cured, I can sand it all down. But for now, all I can do is just quickly fill this in. So here goes. So you just kind of mix it until the color turns to a smooth, even green tone, because the hardener is blue and the cream itself is kind of a yellowish mustardy color. But once it's fully blended in, you don't have a whole lot of time. So it's kind of turning into that even tone green mixture now. So I'm going to have to get it smoothed into the repair area, like thus. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to be sanding it all back, but you got to get enough on here so that you have enough to sand and not have to put more filler in. So it's already getting hard, so I need to hurry up and finish this section. Okay, that'll do it. So I've got the exposed area all filled now, and I'm just going to let it sit and cure. Then I have to scrape all this away so that I get it ready for the next batch. Well, I have all of my initial Bondo work done. This is all hardening nicely. It's going to be a while. I'm going to let it sit overnight to fully cure before I try sanding it. But I've got all of this done. I'm actually scraped away into the wood to fill in the cracks that were developing. And at the bottom end of the door, there was some rotted portion right here that I just scraped out, and I filled it with the Bondo. And all the screw holes that were holding the bottom weather strip bracket. The next step is to completely sand all the Bondo down, see how it looks, and if I need to, I can put on a thin layer on top just to smooth it out some more. But that's it for today. I'm calling it a day. Okay, well, the Bondo is fully set, and I'm ready to sand it down to make it flat on the door. I've got this over here. Let's see how this comes out. Okay, I've got the Bondo sanded down. There's some low spots here that I'm going to be filling in with regular wood filler. So I'm going to go around and touch up all of that. There's a few low spots on this side as well, like right here, in here, and all of this. Those are low spots. So I'll be doing that next. But otherwise, this part here, it feels really good. The Bondo did a nice job. Here too. So I'm very happy with the Bondo. Not so happy with the paint stripper, but that's okay because I'm just going to repaint over the existing paint. I gave up on the stripping. Okay, well, I have finished sanding the Bondo, and I've put coats of regular wood filler on top to fill in the low spots on the Bondo. And it's going to turn out pretty nicely. This, you can't even feel the seam right here. So I've got all the little low spots throughout the door filled in with the wood filler, and sun has set already, so it's getting a little dark. I'm going to finish this tomorrow morning, and then I'll start with the primer coat. All right, I am almost finished with the prepping it for the paint. I've got one little last piece here that I needed to fill in a low spot that I missed, and I'm waiting for that to dry before I can sand it down. But everything else is done. I've filled in a lot of the low spots throughout the door here. And I think I'm ready to give it a final wipe down and then put on a layer of primer. Okay, well, I am ready to paint. I have I have one basic coat of the primer and an extra coating on the patch spots. So it's fairly well covered up. We're using this kind of grayish paint, so that should cover up everything. And I'm gonna paint now. Okay, I am done with putting the door back on the hinge and into the frame. So I had bought these shims because before I took this off, I saw that this door was sitting too close to this jamb. It was actually touching. So I bought shims to bring it out, but for some reason, after I finished doing the refinish and the paint, when I put it back on with the shims, it was now sitting too far away and it wouldn't close into the door frame. So I ended up not using any shims, and now the door sits correctly centered in the frame. So I don't know what happened before. It's a mystery, but all I know is the hinges are back in place, the door's back in place, and it closes correctly. I adjusted the outside weather strip just a little bit. It fits perfectly. So I just need to do some touch-up paint. I think I'm just going to give this whole door on the interior a coat of fresh paint, because the outside dark gray bled over the edge onto the top of the doorway and also on this edge here. So, and then there's some smudges over the years. So I'm just going to put a light coat of interior semi-gloss white. So I have finished my door. It came out really nice, actually. All the cracked parts are gone. I had big cracks here. I had a patch here, or yeah, it was here, and then some cracking up here. And I've managed to get all of that neatly fixed, and you can't tell that there was even work done there. The paint turned out really nice too. While I was at it, I installed this new Philips Smart Home smart lock system, and it turned out also very nice. It took me a while to figure out how to get everything installed, but I did, and it works great. Maybe I'll do a review video on that.